She raised him like a child, dressed him, fed him, even threw him birthday parties. But on that hot July afternoon, something snapped. The creature she called family turned into something else. Something primal. Something deadly. This wasn't a zoo. It wasn't a wildlife sanctuary. It was her backyard, in front of friends, neighbors, and a live stream audience. And when it was over, there was almost nothing left of Camilla Thorn. This is the terrifying story of how a beloved pet chimpanzee turned into a killer. Welcome to Animal Quest. If you like shocking true stories about animals that reveal the dangers of exotic pets, subscribe, like, share, and join the discussion in the comments before the next wild story breaks. Now, here's how it all began. Camilla Thorn lived what many would call a dream life. She was 34 years old, stylish, confident, and successful. She had built a massive online following without ever leaving her countryside home in Lexington, Kentucky. But it wasn't fashion or travel that made Camilla famous. It was Baxter. Baxter wasn't a child. He wasn't even human. He was a chimpanzee. Camilla adopted Baxter when he was just 2 years old, claiming she rescued him from an illegal breeder in another state. At first, he was small, clumsy, and adorable, just another cute addition to her carefully curated online world. But Camilla didn't treat Baxter like a pet. She raised him like a son. She literally dressed him in children's clothes, fed him at the table, and even taught him how to sit and smile for photos. Her followers couldn't get enough. By the time Baxter turned 5, Camilla's page exploded. Over 800,000 followers. People were enchanted by what they called a real-life, but cuter Planet of the Apes. To her fans, she was an animal lover. To her friends, she was obsessed. Baxter had his own bedroom with a twin bed, a shelf of toys, and a closet full of matching outfits. Every year, she threw him birthday parties with custom cakes, party hats, and guests. She once told an interviewer, "He's not a pet. He's my son." But not everyone thought it was sweet. Neighbors began to worry. Some were unsettled by the way Baxter glared over the fence at passing strangers. Others remembered hearing guttural screams late at night after the lights were off. One neighbor later said Camilla treated him like a son, but he was never truly domesticated. And deep down, Camilla knew it. Baxter was never meant to live in a house. He wasn't born in the wild or raised by other chimpanzees. According to Camilla, he had been rescued from a roadside exotic animal breeder in rural Mississippi when he was just 2. Even then, he showed signs of intelligence, emotional bonding, and, as she described it, incredible tenderness. She often described him to her followers as smart and affectionate. He learned to open doors, sort colors, and even mimic facial expressions. Camilla claimed he understood over 100 English words and could follow basic commands. To her, Baxter wasn't just a companion. He was a miracle. But offline, things were different. By the time he was 7, Baxter had changed. He was no longer the tiny, lovable baby Camilla had first brought home. He weighed over 140 pounds, around 63 kilograms, stood more than 4 feet tall, about 1.2 meters, and his muscles were thick and powerful. Neighbors started reporting strange and disturbing noises, deep, guttural screams in the middle of the night, sometimes accompanied by loud banging. Twice, he broke the wooden fence behind Camilla's house and escaped into a neighbor's yard before being coaxed back. One delivery driver reported that Baxter lunged at him through a glass window when he approached the front door. Camilla brushed it off online, laughing and calling it just a mood swing. But experts, those who actually study chimp behavior, saw it differently. One primatologist, when asked about cases like Baxter's, stated bluntly, "Chimpanzees may seem cute, but by age 7, they're stronger than 5 adult men and capable of extreme violence. No amount of love can undo millions of years of evolution." Still, Camilla refused to see the danger. To her, Baxter wasn't just a chimpanzee. He was family. And over the years, that illusion only deepened. The warning signs weren't just visible, they were screaming. But Camilla either ignored them, covered them up, or worse, convinced herself they didn't matter. The first serious incident happened in early spring during a family gathering. Camilla invited her younger cousin and his kids to meet Baxter. What started as a casual visit quickly turned into horror. Without warning, Baxter grabbed Camilla's cousin by the wrist and bit down so hard it required stitches. The man was shocked, shaken, and furious. Camilla begged him not to report it, insisting Baxter had just gotten scared and felt cornered. She paid the medical bills, deleted the surveillance footage, and told her followers the visit had gone perfectly. Then came the day Baxter escaped. He broke a faulty window latch on the second floor and climbed out. A neighbor spotted him sitting on the roof of a shed, smashing a bird feeder with garden rakes he'd taken from Camilla's toolbox. When the neighbor approached, Baxter hissed, bared his teeth, and pounded his fists on the metal roof. Animal control was called. But before they arrived, Camilla showed up barefoot and panicked, begging the neighbor not to make noise. She lured Baxter down with grapes and calmly walked him back inside, as if nothing had happened. Still, she clung to her illusion. In every new post, Camilla repeated the same phrase like a mantra. He's harmless when he's loved. But love doesn't erase instincts. Here's the full English translation of the second part of the story, without timestamps. Love didn't erase the wild nature that still lived inside Baxter, no matter how many costumes she put on him. A close friend later admitted that Camilla had a fantasy, that love alone would be enough to tame him, that if she gave him all her heart, he would remain gentle forever. But even on camera, the cracks began to show. Sometimes when Camilla tried to film, Baxter would knock the phone from her hand or suddenly lunge at the lens. Camilla would nervously laugh it off, calling it a joke. But the tension was real. The flicker of fear in her eyes didn't lie. And then one day, fear became reality. It was July 9th, 2022, a Saturday. Clear skies, a warm breeze. Camilla had been planning the event for weeks. A backyard party live stream to celebrate reaching 100,000 subscribers on her channel. There were cupcakes, champagne, balloons, and a banner above the patio that read, "Thank you, family." About 20 guests were there, close friends, a few online collaborators, and local fans invited to meet Baxter in person. A ring light stood on the lawn. Her phone was mounted on a tripod, streaming everything live. At first, Baxter seemed calm. He sat near the snacks, nibbling on watermelon slices with his fingers. Camilla had dressed him in khaki shorts and a tiny toddler-sized Hawaiian shirt. Guests laughed, took pictures. Some even asked for selfies with him. But then the music started. Loud pop hits from a Bluetooth speaker. Then camera flashes. And then people, loud, unfamiliar, fast-moving, touching him. Baxter began pacing. Camilla noticed and tried to soothe him, kneeling beside him and offering a juice box. But Baxter snatched her phone. He grabbed the device mounted on the tripod and hurled it across the yard. It shattered against the patio bricks. Guests laughed awkwardly, unsure if it was part of the act. Camilla gave her usual nervous laugh and waved it off. "He's just excited," she said. But what happened next wasn't excitement. It was something else. In an instant, Baxter lunged forward. He knocked Camilla to the ground with his full weight. There was no warning, no build-up, just a sickening sound of tearing skin. His teeth sank into her cheek, then her neck. Her screams rang across the yard, sharp and desperate. Blood splattered the stone tiles as she writhed beneath him. People screamed. Some ran. Others froze. A few raised their phones and kept filming. Baxter didn't stop. He drove his fingers into her scalp, tore out clumps of hair, ripped flesh from her face. Camilla's cries turned into a wet, choking gurgle. She tried to crawl away, but he dragged her back like a rag doll. One guest managed to dial 911. Through sobs and ragged breaths, her voice trembled on the line. "He's eating her. The chimp, he's eating her. Oh, God! There's blood everywhere. Please, someone come. He won't stop." But when help arrived, it was already too late. The first officers got there 6 minutes after the call. But those 6 minutes felt like an eternity. The scene they found was horrifying. As they approached the house, Camilla lay motionless on the ground. Her body was mutilated. Baxter was still on top of her, chewing, tearing what remained of her face. His movements were fast, frenzied, as if he was still in a rage, unable to distinguish between play and death. A body camera captured the moment the team entered the yard. The camera turned toward the nightmare. The officer's voice was steady but shaking. Visual contact. The subject is consuming flesh. The officers froze, unsure what to do. This was not a situation they'd been trained for. A chimp of that size in full fury could kill or seriously injure anyone who came near. They knew they couldn't wait for animal control. There was no time. "Shoot," one officer said. Without hesitation, they opened fire. 3 shots rang out in quick succession, echoing through the yard. Baxter, the animal that had once been Camilla's companion, collapsed instantly. His body dropped beside hers. Blood still pooled around them. But the horror didn't end there. A neighbor nearby began sobbing uncontrollably. "She raised him like a child," she cried, "and he died like a monster." In that moment, it no longer mattered whether Camilla saw Baxter as a son or a pet. The truth was undeniable. He was wild, a force of nature that could not be controlled by affection or good intentions. The yard, once filled with laughter and celebration, fell silent, broken only by the voices of officers securing the scene. Camilla Thorn, the woman who loved Baxter more than anyone else, lost her life at the hands of the very animal she had so desperately tried to tame. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Camilla Thorn was pronounced dead at the hospital. Her body was brutally disfigured. Severe facial trauma, deep wounds, torn tissue. The extent of her injuries left the medical team in shock. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was a clear sign of how wrong things had gone. News of the attack spread quickly through the small town of Lexington. Neighbors who once waved at Camilla from across the yard now stared at her home in disbelief. How could this happen? How could someone who raised an animal like a child end up like this? As the community mourned, the story sparked a storm of controversy. Local authorities and advocacy groups began to question the legality of keeping exotic animals as pets. Should people be allowed to keep dangerous animals like chimpanzees in their homes? The incident reignited debates about animal rights and public safety. Within days, officials began calling for stricter exotic pet laws. In the immediate aftermath, Baxter's remains were examined for disease. Experts found no signs of rabies or other illnesses. His behavior wasn't driven by sickness. It was something far more primal. They concluded that the attack was the result of instinctive aggression that had built up over time. Meanwhile, an intense debate erupted online. Opinions were divided. Some blamed Camilla for putting herself and others at risk, arguing that no amount of love could ever tame a wild animal. She should have known better, they said. It was inevitable. Others mourned Camilla's death, acknowledging the tragedy but pointing the finger at the exotic pet trade itself. They argued the system had failed her, with unregulated breeding, irresponsible sales, and a culture that treats dangerous animals as entertainment for profit. Many pointed to the thirst for internet fame and the cute pet video culture, accusing it of encouraging people to keep animals that were never meant to be domesticated. In the following week, authorities made it clear this was a wake-up call about the risks of unregulated primate ownership. A statement from the local animal control department described it as a tragic incident that underscored the dangers of keeping wild animals in domestic settings. The tragedy of Camilla Thorn and Baxter became a symbol, not just of love gone wrong, but of a broader problem. The thin line between affection and nature and how easily it can be crossed. Camilla Thorn believed she could raise a wild animal like a human. She thought that with enough love and care, she could tame what nature had made wild. But the truth is, love cannot erase nature. Baxter didn't betray her. He didn't become a monster. He simply became what he had always been, a wild animal, driven by instincts too strong to ignore, no matter how deeply he was loved. The tragedy that unfolded in Camilla's backyard stands as a painful reminder of the dangers of treating wild animals like pets. The story of Camilla and Baxter was once one of connection and companionship, but it ended in bloodshed. And it wasn't only Camilla who suffered. The consequences of keeping a chimpanzee, or any wild animal, are serious, and as this case shows, often fatal. As authorities closed the chapter, one final lesson remained. Owning exotic pets isn't just a personal choice. It's a public safety issue. And until laws change, And until society understands that wild animals belong in the wild, these tragedies will keep happening. The blood-stained patio where Camilla once celebrated her online success now stands as a shocking monument to a fatal mistake. A framed photo of Camilla and Baxter, smiling in happier times, is now a chilling reminder of what was lost. The gate bearing the sign "No Exotic Pets Allowed" is locked, but the lesson remains open for anyone willing to hear it. Wild animals are not toys, and they are certainly not pets. In my final message, remember this: chimpanzees are not pets. They are wild animals, and tragedies like this will continue if we don't learn. If this story resonated with you, if it opened your eyes to the dangers of keeping exotic animals, please share this video. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that uncover the harsh truths behind animal attacks. And hit like if you believe no animal, no matter how cute or beloved, should be trapped in a life it was never meant for. Share this message and help prevent the next tragedy.